So let's have a little talk about farming. And I have a feeling, to be honest, that we are living on a farmed planet, that this beautiful blue globe we live on is in fact somebody else's property. Now there have to be alien races out there. Simply the numbers. There are a really huge number of planets that are Earth-like. We've discovered a few thousand, and that's just in our own backyard. In the other billions of stars in the galaxy, who knows? Now, there are reasons to thinking we might be a farmed planet. The first one being our survival. There have been an awful lot of efforts put into observing near-Earth asteroids. Now, space weather says that we know 1,523 asteroids larger than 100 meters that come very close to Earth and could in fact be impactors. So these are what they call potentially hazardous asteroids. Now, there's two things that are important about this. The first is the size. It is unlikely that anything that is less than 100 meters in diameter or longest length would actually pose much of a threat. Yeah, sure, these things have hit the Earth before and they've been, 50 meters and so on and so forth during living memory. I mean, the Tunguska meteorite, for example, that was 50 meters in diameter. A stony meteorite that exploded above the Earth flattened about 22 square kilometers of rainforest, of natural forest in Siberia. But that really, you can't really call it a significant impact. Yes, it's significant if you live underneath it, but it's not going to kill off like half the human population or anything. So what are we talking about? Well, the last major impact was 3.3 million years ago in Argentina, and it caused mass extinctions. Since then, it's been worked out that there's been around about 350 impacts by objects like the Siberian Tunguska meteorite, 350 times since in the last 10,000 years. And this was worked out by computer simulation, and this rate of attrition is likely to carry on. And the same simulation reckons that over the next 10,000 years it could kill 13 million people. Well, whoopee-doo. If you want to multiply it out, car accidents are going to kill far more than that. So it's not really a consideration, but it should be. And the reason it should be is all of these potentially hazardous asteroids. So why aren't we being hit more often? And the theory there is that something or somebody somewhere is protecting us, and it can't just be the gravitational dynamics of the solar system. Look at the moon, that's pounded to hell, and that's just next door. We're not pounded to hell. We don't have craters every few miles. Well, not the last time I looked anyway. The next bit of evidence for us being farmed is the gap in the fossil record. Man's origins are quite mysterious, and DNA evidence shows that a distinct branch of our ancestors left Africa 25 to 60,000 years ago, and they displaced earlier proto-human populations. Now, there may have been a bit of breeding amongst them, who knows? Geneticists are starting to think there might have been. Other geneticists are arguing and saying that the proto-human DNA we still have in our makeup came from an ancestor 800,000 years ago. But this mysterious sudden advance of humanity has led some people to think that we may be a created race. And there's an awful lot of other bits of evidence to say, well, you know, other advanced civilizations have existed on Earth, that, you know, objects have been found, OO parts as they're called, which are out of the accepted archaeological sequence, shall we say, and therefore archaeologists just simply ignore them. I think this is a mistake. I think this is a big mistake. So anyway, there is this suspicion that we're farmed, but why would someone wish to farm us? And there's been all sorts of theories, because this is not a unique theory to me, obviously, and there have been TV series and there have been many books written that essentially have this as a subject, and a lot of them have a dark theory. And one of these theories, for example, was in the movie The Matrix, where human beings were essentially strapped into containers and used as batteries to provide some mysterious psychic energy. Well, all of these dark theories, such as DNA harvesting, organ harvesting, the human battery, and you could go on for a whole video on just this subject, have one downfall, and that downfall is the potential age of most alien civilizations. If they are out there, and I think they are, if you look at the age of the universe, it makes an awful lot of sense to say that, well, there should be civilizations out there that are 6 billion years old, perhaps even older. I mean, our civilization is something like 50,000 years old. Can you imagine even a 1,000,000-year-old civilization? How far advanced that would be beyond us. Now, would they need to do all this? Would they need to go to all this effort to merely harvest some DNA? They could just make it in the lab. Would they go to all this effort to harvest organs? Well, we can already grow our own organs. We don't have to harvest organs. We do it as a matter of expediency because it's cheaper. But if we automated the process, I'm sure it would be cheaper than actual harvesting, especially if you've got to go over quite a lot of light years to do it. So all of these dark theories don't really stack up, bearing in mind the advanced nature of the aliens that you're talking about. And gold, that's another one. That kind of stacks up if you assume that gold is rare in the universe, but it's not. There have been a lot of people who hypothesise that there are entire asteroids out there somewhere that are made of gold. And that is how, in fact, the Earth got its gold. That when the Earth was still in a very hot, molten state before it cooled down, it got bombarded by a wave of asteroids that had a huge gold content. And this gold content sunk into the molten rock and forms a layer immediately above the molten rock in our Earth's mantle. So every time there's a volcano, along with that volcano out spews some gold, and this is the gold that we mine. And that is the current theory of how gold came to be on the world. So it's unlikely, really, I think, that they're after gold. Although it's still a possibility. It may be that that is just unique to our region of space. The next thing on the list, and I think this is quite likely, is terraforming. If you want to change a whole planet without investing huge amounts of machinery and raw materials, what better way than to do it biologically with a self-reproducing machine, that is us, that produces lots of carbon dioxide, lots of all the good things that your civilization likes and would like to see in a home planet. And since you've got a very long perspective, being 1 billion years or more old as a civilization, you say, okay, we'll seed this planet and then we'll leave it for X billion years or million years until it's suitable for our people. And this, I think, is a reasonably plausible thing. But there is another thing, and that is just raising livestock for the sake of it. Because you look at how many humans keep pets. You look at how many humans farm, not because they have to farm, because they're going to eat the animals, but they farm as a hobby. People, for example, who keep heavy horses. Seems strange to think about it, but we could very well be somebody's hobby project. A whole planet could be somebody's hobby project. They could be farming us just because they can. They could be farming us just because they want to see more intelligent races in the universe. And if this is the case, they would be very benevolent towards us. And they would steer these asteroids away, and they would keep an eye on us, and they would try and look after us. But I think they are not interfering very much, because there are too many really, really bad things that happen on the world. So maybe it's not that either. Maybe it's because we are so damn entertaining. We have all these wars, we have all these dramas, we produce lots of films. Maybe to some jaded, ancient, alien civilization, this is all worthwhile because it is just so much damn fun. So anyway, I hope I've given you something to think about. And if you like this video and found it entertaining, please subscribe, please share, and please like. Thank you very much. Bye.